It was Thanksgiving, 2024. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. My daughter, Sarah, her ex-husband, Miguel, my 2 grandchildren, Jessica and Ryan, all under one roof. My roof. The house I'd owned for 40 years. I arrived around 3 in the afternoon, brought pies, pumpkin and apple. Sarah was upstairs rearranging bedrooms. I could hear furniture moving, drawers opening and closing. She came down carrying fresh sheets. "Mom, change of plans. You'll take the couch tonight. Miguel's using the guest room. The kids have their rooms. You don't mind, right?" I stood there in the entryway, overnight bag in my hand, in my own house. The couch? It's just one night. You're fine with it, aren't you? Before I could answer, Jessica appeared at the top of the stairs, 17 years old. My granddaughter. She laughed. "Grandma gets the couch. She doesn't mind." Ryan, my youngest, stood behind her, 15. He looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing. Sarah was already walking back to the kitchen. "Dinner's at 6. Make yourself comfortable." Comfortable. On the couch. In my house. Dinner was awkward. I'd cooked the turkey at home, brought it over warm. Sarah reheated it. Took credit when Miguel complimented the seasoning. I said nothing. Set the table. Served the plates. Cleared the dishes while everyone moved to the living room. "Mom, can you bring out the dessert?" Sarah called from the couch. My couch. I brought the pies. Cut them. Served them. No one said thank you. That night, after everyone retreated to their warm bedrooms, I lay on that couch. The blanket was thin, one of those cheap throws from the hall closet, the kind you'd give to a guest who showed up unexpected. The living room was cold, November in Michigan. The thermostat was in the hallway and I didn't want to get up and adjust it, didn't want to disturb anyone. I pulled the blanket tighter. My hip ached against the cushions. The couch was old, sagging in the middle. I'd been meaning to replace it. I could hear them upstairs. Laughter. Jessica's voice talking on her phone. A door closing. Water running through the pipes. The house settling into sleep. Warm beds. Soft pillows. My house. I'd bought it in 1985. My husband Robert and I. We were 40 years old. First-time homeowners. The mortgage rate was 12%. Everyone told us to wait. Rates would come down. But we didn't want to wait. We wanted a home. Ours. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. A backyard big enough for a garden. Robert built a swing set back there. I planted roses along the fence. We scraped and saved for years to afford the down payment. 20%, $36,000. It felt like a fortune. We raised Sarah here. Birthday parties in that backyard, Christmas mornings by this fireplace. I taught her to ride a bike in the driveway. Robert taught her to change a tire in the garage. When she graduated high school, we took a photo on the front porch. Sarah in her cap and gown. Robert and I on either side, beaming. When he died 10 years ago, I thought about selling. Too many memories, too much house for one person. The mortgage was paid off by then, 30 years of payments. Finally ours, free and clear. But I couldn't sell. This was our legacy, our life. I thought Sarah understood that. I lay there in the dark, thin blanket pulled up to my chin, cold air seeping in from somewhere, my hip throbbing, and I listened to them sleep in their warm beds, in my house. On the coffee table next to me, there was a photo album. I'd left it out earlier, showing Jessica pictures from when Sarah was young. Jessica had flipped through it, barely looking. "That's nice, Grandma," she'd said, then went back to her phone. The album was still open. I could see the edge of a photo in the dim light from the street lamp outside, Sarah's first day of kindergarten, standing on this same porch, this same house, my house. Something shifted inside me that night. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. I'd been sleeping on couches before, hotel rooms, friends' homes when I traveled, but never in my own house. Never as a guest in the home I'd paid for, the home I'd built, the home I'd spent 30 years of mortgage payments to own. That night, lying there on that cold couch, I made a decision, one that would cost me my family, but save myself. The house is a 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet subdivision on the west side of town. Built in the 70s, tree-lined streets, good schools, the kind of neighborhood where people know their neighbors, where kids ride bikes and families have barbecues in the summer. Robert and I moved in when interest rates were high and hope was higher. We painted every room ourselves, refinished the hardwood floors on our hands and knees, planted that garden, built that life. Now, 40 years later, the house was worth 4 times what we paid. The neighborhood had aged well. Property values stayed strong. My house. Except it hadn't felt like my house in 7 years. Sarah moved in during the summer of 2017. Her divorce from Miguel had just finalized. Messy, expensive. She'd lost her job 3 months earlier, corporate downsizing at the marketing firm where she'd worked for 12 years. Severance ran out. Unemployment wasn't enough to cover rent. She called me crying. "Mom, I don't know what to do. I can't afford the apartment. The kids need stability. Can we stay with you? Just temporarily, until I get back on my feet." What was I supposed to say? She's my daughter. Jessica was 12. Ryan was 8. They needed a home. "Of course," I said, "stay as long as you need." I didn't know temporary would mean 7 years. At first it was fine. Sarah looked for work, applied to dozens of jobs, went on interviews. The kids adjusted to new schools. I helped with homework, made dinners. It felt good to have a full house again, to be needed. But months turned into a year. A year turned into 2. Sarah found part-time work, retail, barely above minimum wage, not enough to save for a security deposit, not enough to move out. She never offered to pay rent. I never asked. She's my daughter. Over the years, things shifted, quietly, gradually, the way water erodes stone. Sarah started making decisions about the house. Paint colors, furniture arrangements. She'd come home with a new lamp, a new rug, and just put it where she wanted. My opinion wasn't requested. The guest room became Miguel's room on the weekends he visited. My sewing table got moved to the basement. The dining room table, the one Robert and I bought at an estate sale 35 years ago, Sarah sat at the head. I took a side chair. Small things, but they added up. Let me tell you what I gave them. I paid off this house early. 30 years of mortgage payments, $180,000, over 3 decades. I wanted it to be theirs someday, debt-free, a legacy. When Sarah moved in, I renovated the kitchen and bathroom so they'd be comfortable. New appliances, new fixtures, $45,000 from my retirement savings. I've paid the property taxes every year since 2017, $8,000 annually. That's $56,000 over 7 years. Market rent for a 3-bedroom house in this neighborhood is $2,200 a month. Over 7 years. That's $185,000 in free housing. Do the math. $241,000. I thought I was helping family, building their future. I didn't realize I was losing my present. My neighbor, Margaret, noticed before I did. She's lived next door for 15 years, retired nurse, widow, like me. We've been in the same book club since 2009, mystery novels mostly. We meet every Wednesday at the library. One morning last spring, Margaret brought over a casserole, tuna noodle, my favorite. "You seem tired, Dot," she said. We were standing in my kitchen, though it didn't feel like mine anymore. Sarah had rearranged all the cabinets. "I'm fine," I said. Margaret looked at me. Really looked. "Are they taking care of you?" "They're family." That's not what I asked. I didn't answer, didn't know how to. Looking back now, I can see the pattern. I'd always been the one who said yes, to Robert, to Sarah, to everyone. "Your mother never says no," Robert used to joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was a flaw. I was conflict avoidant, a people pleaser. I valued family harmony over my own needs. I told myself I was being generous, selfless, a good mother, a good grandmother. But really, I was teaching them I didn't matter. There was a moment, I remember it clearly, when I should have spoken up, should have set a boundary. It was my birthday, 72nd. Sarah asked me to babysit that evening, last minute. She and Miguel were taking Jessica to a concert, some band the kid liked. "It's just for a few hours, Mom. Ryan will probably just play video games. You don't mind, right?" I had plans. Dinner with Margaret and some friends from book club. I'd been looking forward to it. Actually, Thanks, Mom. You're the best. Sarah was already heading out the door. I canceled with Margaret. Stayed home with Ryan. He barely spoke to me all evening. Just sat in his room playing games. When Sarah got home, she didn't ask how it went. Didn't thank me, just went upstairs to bed. I should have said no. Should have told her I had plans, that my birthday mattered. But I didn't. I said nothing. Laughed it off. Told myself they were just stressed. They'd been through a lot with the divorce. I made excuses for them, and they learned they could walk all over me. Every morning, I wake up at 6, make coffee, sit at the kitchen table and watch the sunrise through the window over the sink. The house is quiet for another 2 hours before anyone else wakes up. Those are my favorite moments, just me and my coffee and the life I built. I think about Robert. Wonder what he'd say about all this. He always knew how to set boundaries, how to say no when it mattered. I wish I'd learned that from him. I spend afternoons in the garden when the weather's good, tending my roses. Robert helped me plant the first bushes 30 years ago. Hybrid teas. They've survived storms, droughts, harsh winters. Every spring they come back, stronger. I wonder sometimes if I'm as resilient. In the evenings I knit, Afghans mostly, for the church charity drive. Blue and white, simple patterns. My grandmother taught me when I was 10. My mother taught Sarah. But Sarah never had time to learn. Too busy. Always too busy. I thought maybe Jessica would want to learn. Carry on the tradition. But when I asked her last year, she laughed. "That's kind of old-fashioned, Grandma." Old-fashioned, like me. This started 7 years ago when Sarah lost her job and her marriage fell apart. I understood desperation. I'd been young once, struggled. When Robert and I were first married, we lived in a tiny apartment, paycheck to paycheck. I knew what it felt like to need help, so I said yes. But somewhere along the way, temporary became permanent, and I became invisible in my own home. That night after Thanksgiving, lying on that couch, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the cold or the thin blanket or my aching hip, because Margaret's words kept replaying in my mind. Are they taking care of you? No, they weren't. And another question formed, one I hadn't let myself ask before. Whose name is on that deed anyway? Mine. Dorothy Henderson, sole owner since 2014 when Robert died. Before that, both our names. I realized something that night, something that changed everything. They didn't even know it was still my house, or maybe they did know, and they just didn't care. And that's when I started planning. I started paying attention, really paying attention. The way Sarah asked me to cook dinner, then served it like she'd made it herself. The way Miguel walked through the house like he owned it, adjusting the thermostat without asking. The way decisions were made about my house without anyone consulting me. "We're thinking of repainting the living room," Sarah said one morning over coffee. Not, "What do you think about repainting?" Just stating a fact. "I like the color it is," I said. She didn't even look up from her phone. "It's dated, Mom. We need something more modern." We, not you and me, just we. Like I wasn't part of the equation. The mail was another thing. Letters addressed to me would be opened before I saw them. "Oh, I thought it might be important," Sarah would say when I asked. My bank statements, my insurance notices, my mail, in my house. I started noticing how they talked about the future, plans for renovations, ideas for the backyard, all with the assumption they'd still be here, permanently. "When we redo the basement," Miguel said one evening, "not if, when." I said nothing, like always, but I was listening now. It was a Tuesday night, 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. I'd gone to bed early. My bedroom is at the end of the hall, past the bathroom. Sarah and Miguel's room is on the other side of the bathroom. The walls are thin. You can hear everything. I was getting up to use the bathroom. 10:30. The house was quiet. I thought everyone was asleep. but their door was cracked open. I heard voices, low, talking. I stopped in the hallway, listened. Sarah's voice first. "How much longer do you think we have to wait?" "Wait for what?" Miguel. "For this to be ours, the house. She's 73. How much longer can it be?" Silence. My heart was pounding. I stood there in the dark hallway, frozen. Miguel again. "What if she changes her mind? The will?" "She won't." Sarah sounded certain. "She'd never do that to the kids. She loves them too much. Besides, she's too soft to make waves. She'll leave everything to me. She always does what I ask." "You sure?" "Positive. We just have to be patient. Let her live out her years here. Keep her comfortable. Then it's ours." I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. They were counting the days until I died. In my house. Planning their future in my home. While I was still alive. Still living here. I went back to my room. Didn't use the bathroom. Just lay in bed. Staring at the ceiling. Replaying what I'd heard. How much longer can it be? They weren't just assuming the house would be theirs someday. They were waiting, actively waiting for me to die so they could inherit. The next morning, I acted normal. Made coffee, said good morning, asked Sarah if she needed anything from the store. She barely looked at me. "No, we're fine." "We're fine. Not you. We." That afternoon, after everyone left, Sarah to work, the kids to school, Miguel to wherever he went, I went to my safe place, the attic. There's a small desk up there where I keep important papers. I pulled out the property deed. Haven't looked at it in years. Kept it in a fireproof box with Robert's death certificate and my will. The deed was from 1985. Original purchase. Robert Henderson and Dorothy Henderson. After he died, I'd had it updated. Dorothy Henderson, sole owner, my name, my house. I sat there on the attic floor holding that paper. 40 years. And they thought it was already theirs. I checked my will next. Filed with my attorney downtown. Last updated 5 years ago. Standard stuff. Everything goes to Sarah, the house, my savings, my retirement accounts. She was my only child. Who else would I leave it to? But now I wondered, should I? I went downstairs, made a list, started gathering papers. Bank statements, property tax receipts, utility bills, everything in my name. Everything showing I'd paid for this house, maintained it, owned it. I needed to know exactly where I stood. Over the next few days, I tried talking to Sarah, testing the waters. "Sarah, we should talk about living arrangements." She was making dinner, didn't turn around. "What about them?" "Well, it's been 7 years. I'm wondering if you've thought about finding your own place." Now she turned, looked at me like I'd said something absurd. "Mom, don't worry about it. This is your home too." "Your home too?" Like she was the primary resident and I was the guest. "But it's my house," I said, gently, carefully. "My name is on the deed." "Well, yes, technically." She went back to stirring the pot. "But we're family. You're going to leave it to me anyway, right? So it's not like it matters." "Not like it matters." I stood there, stunned. "It matters to me," I said quietly. She sighed, like I was being difficult. "Mom, you're being dramatic. We live here. We take care of things. You're getting older. Maybe you're a little confused about how this works." Confused, like I was senile. "I'm not confused, Sarah." "Okay," dismissive. She turned back to the stove. "Can you set the table?" I set the table, like a good mother, like always. But inside, something was crystallizing, a decision forming. That night, at dinner, I sat at my usual side chair, Sarah at the head of the table. The conversation flowed around me like I wasn't there. "Jessica, did you finish that college application?" Miguel asked. "Yeah, submitted it yesterday." "Good. When you're at state, you can come home on weekends. Keep your room here. Keep your room here. In my house. Planning 4 years into the future." I spoke up. What about after college, Jessica? Do you plan to move out on your own? Everyone looked at me, like I'd asked something weird. I don't know, Grandma. Maybe. Depends on jobs and stuff. Sarah laughed. Well, she's got time to figure it out. No rush. This is a big house. Plenty of room. Plenty of room in my house. I met Margaret for coffee the next day. Downtown diner, our usual spot. You look exhausted, she said. I told her everything. The conversation I'd overheard, the way Sarah talked to me, the assumptions they were making. Margaret listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Dot, that's your house. Your name is on the deed. You can do whatever you want with it. But their family? Family doesn't treat you like a ghost in your own home. She stirred her coffee. You know what I think? I think you need to talk to someone, a lawyer. Find out what your options are. I don't want to cause problems. You're not causing problems. They are. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. You deserve better than this. I drove home slowly, thought about what Margaret said. That night, I looked up elder law attorneys on my laptop, found one downtown, Susan Chen, specialized in family property disputes. Good reviews. I almost didn't call, almost talked myself out of it, but then I remembered Sarah's voice. How much longer can it be? I called the next morning, made an appointment 2 weeks out. The receptionist asked what it was regarding. Property ownership, I said, and estate planning. Great. We'll see you then, Mrs. Henderson. I hung up, sat there at my kitchen table, my kitchen table. I'd made an appointment with a lawyer, without telling my family, planning something. I didn't even know what yet, but something. For the first time in 7 years, I felt like I was taking control. It was scary, but it was mine. The appointment with Susan Chen was on a Thursday afternoon, December 5th, 2 weeks after I'd called. I told Sarah I was going to the bank. Not a lie, just not the whole truth. I went to the bank first, my safe deposit box. I'd had one there since 1990, Robert's idea. Important documents need to be secure, he'd said. The deed, our marriage certificate, birth certificates, life insurance policies. The bank was quiet, mid-afternoon. The clerk led me to the vault, left me alone with the box. I pulled out the property deed. The paper was heavier than I remembered. Official, legal weight, 40 years old but preserved perfectly. The county seal embossed in the corner, blue ink signatures, Robert Henderson, Dorothy Henderson, and then the updated deed from 2014. After Robert died, Dorothy Henderson, sole owner. I sat there in that little room, stared at my name, not Sarah's, not to be inherited by, mine. 40 years of my life in this document. Robert and I signing those papers in 1985. The lawyer's office downtown. We'd been so excited, so nervous. 40 years old and finally homeowners. We'd worked so hard for that down payment, saved every penny. We raised our daughter in that house, painted her bedroom pink when she was 5, lavender when she was 13, watched her graduate on that front porch, danced in the living room on her wedding day, and now she was waiting for me to die so she could have it. I held that deed. The paper was smooth, cold, official. This is mine, I thought. Not someday. Now, today, mine. I made copies at the bank, 3 copies. Put the original back in the safe deposit box, folded 1 copy into my purse. I sat in the parking lot for a long time after, engine running, heat on, holding that deed, 40 years of my life. And they acted like it was already theirs, like I was just a placeholder, keeping it warm until they could claim it. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was clear. This was my house. I'd bought it. I'd paid for it. Every single payment for 30 years. It was mine to do with as I pleased. The lawyer's office was downtown, Victorian building, 2nd floor, burgundy carpet, mahogany furniture, smelled like old books and lemon polish. Susan Chen was younger than I expected, maybe 50. kind eyes, sharp suit. She shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Henderson, please sit. Tell me what brings you in." I told her everything, the 7 years, the couch, the overheard conversation, the way they talked about the house like it was theirs. She listened, took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she looked at the property deed I'd brought. "This is straightforward," she said. "You're the sole legal owner, Dorothy Henderson. No other names on this deed. Do you have a mortgage?" "Paid off. 2010. She made a note. "Property taxes current?" "Yes, I pay them every year." "Do you have documentation, receipts?" I pulled out the folder I'd brought. 7 years of property tax receipts, each one from my checking account. $8,000 annually, $56,000 over 7 years. Susan reviewed them. "You've been paying the full property tax burden while they live there rent-free." "Yes." "What's the fair market rent for a house like yours?" I looked it up, about $2,200 a month. She calculated. "That's $185,000 in housing value over 7 years, plus the $56,000 in taxes. That's $241,000 you've given them." Hearing it said out loud, by a lawyer, made it real. "Mrs. Henderson, legally, you have absolute right to this property. It's yours. Your daughter has no legal claim to it while you're alive. Even after you pass, it's only hers if you will it to her. My current will leaves everything to her. Do you want to change that?" I hesitated. Did I? I don't know yet. I need to think about it. Susan nodded. "You have several options. First, you could simply ask them to start paying rent, formal lease, market rate. Second, you could ask them to leave, give them notice. If they refuse, you could pursue eviction. Third, you could sell the property. It's your right as the owner." Sell? I hadn't even considered that. "If I sold, could they stop me?" "No, it's your property. You could sell it tomorrow if you wanted. You'd need to give them proper notice to vacate, typically 60 days in this state, but they couldn't prevent the sale." 60 days, 2 months, and I could be free. "What about their tenant rights?" "They have minimal tenant rights since there's no lease and their family. You'd need to follow proper eviction procedures if they refuse to leave voluntarily. But with proper notice and documentation, you'd have a strong case, especially since you're the owner and they've paid nothing toward the property." I sat there, processing. "How much is your house worth, would you estimate?" Susan asked. "Maybe $450,000. The neighborhood's appreciated well." "So you have significant equity. If you sold, you'd have options, financial security, freedom." Freedom. The word hung in the air. "I need time to think about this," I said. "Of course. But Mrs. Henderson, document everything from now on. Keep records, conversations, payments, everything. If you decide to take action, documentation will protect you." She gave me her card, told me to call anytime. I drove home slowly, thought about everything she'd said, options. I had options. That night, after everyone went to bed, I went to the den, the computer room, pulled up my homeowner's insurance policy online. Dorothy Henderson, policy holder. I'd been paying the premiums for 40 years, never missed a payment. I printed it out, added it to my folder, found the receipts from the kitchen renovation. 2018, $45,000, new cabinets, new countertops, new appliances from my savings, so they'd be comfortable. I'd paid for new roof, tiles too, $12,000, and the HVAC system when it died, $8,000. I made a list, wrote it all down, every expense, every improvement, every dollar I'd spent on that house, my house. Over the next few days, I gathered more evidence, utility bills, all in my name, all paid from my account, electric, gas, water, 7 years of payments. I called Margaret. "Would you be willing to testify if I needed you to, that you've always known it was my house?" "Of course." "Are you really doing this?" "I think so. I'm building a case." "Good. It's about time." I even talked to other neighbors, casually. "You know Sarah and the kids are living with me, right?" It's been 7 years. Oh, we know. We always wondered why you let them stay so long. It's your house after all. Your house. Everyone knew it was my house. Everyone except my family. I organized everything into a file folder, labeled it Property Ownership Documentation, Property Deed, Tax Receipts, Insurance Policy, Renovation Receipts, Utility Bills, Maintenance Records, Witness statements from neighbors willing to confirm I was the owner. 40 years of proof. I kept the folder in my bedroom closet behind my shoes, somewhere Sarah wouldn't think to look. But one afternoon I came home from the grocery store and found her in my room, standing by my closet. The door was open. "Sarah, what are you doing?" She jumped, turned around. "Oh, I was looking for that blue scarf of yours, the one you said I could borrow. It's in the hall closet." "Right, sorry." She walked past me, didn't make eye contact. I waited until she left, checked the closet. The folder was still there, behind the shoes. Didn't look disturbed, but I didn't trust it. That night I moved the folder, my car, trunk, locked, with a copy of everything scanned to my email, just in case. I sat at my kitchen table that night, after everyone was asleep, spread everything out in front of me, receipts, statements, documents, 40 years of my life in paper form. The house was quiet, just me and the evidence. I thought about Robert, what he'd say. I think he'd be proud of me. Finally standing up for myself. Finally saying enough. I looked at the photo albums on the shelf, the memories we'd built in that house. Sarah's childhood. Our life together. But this time, I wasn't nostalgic. I was calculating. How much had this house cost me? Not just in money, in dignity, in self-respect, in the years I'd spent being invisible. The number was too high. I put the documents back in the folder, locked them in the trunk of my car. I had proof now, legal proof, financial proof, witness proof, my name, my house, my decision. And I knew what I was going to do. They were all out on Saturday. Sarah at work. Miguel took the kids to some movie. I had the house to myself. I walked through it slowly, room by room, really looked at it for the first time in years. The living room, that couch where I'd slept on Thanksgiving. The fireplace Robert and I had stacked stone around ourselves. Took us 3 weekends. Our backs ached for weeks after. But we were so proud. The kitchen, new cabinets I'd paid for, $45,000. Sarah chose the color. I wrote the check. The dining room, that table. Robert and I found it at an estate sale, 1989. Solid oak. We'd refinished it together, sanded for hours. 3 coats of stain. It was beautiful. Sarah sat at the head now. I sat on the side. I stood there, looked at that table, my table, in my house, the bedrooms, Sarah's room, used to be our master. We'd moved to the smaller room after Robert died. "You need more space with the kids," I'd told her, like a guest offering her host the best room. I walked through every room, measured them with my eyes. This was my house, my life, my 40 years, and I was invisible in it. I thought about the day we bought it. December 1985. Cold day, snow on the ground. Robert and I drove to the realtor's office to sign the papers. Our hands were shaking, not from cold, from excitement, fear. This was the biggest thing we'd ever done. The mortgage was 12%. Everyone said wait for rates to drop, but we couldn't wait. We'd been saving for 6 years, living in that tiny apartment, working extra shifts. Every penny went into the savings account, $36,000 for the down payment. We signed those papers, got the keys, drove to the house. Our house. Robert carried me over the threshold, both of us laughing. 40 years old, finally homeowners. "This is ours, Dot," he'd said. "No landlords, no one telling us what to do. Freedom." We'd painted every room that first year, stripped wallpaper, refinished floors, made it ours. Sarah was born 2 years after we moved in. We brought her home to this house. Painted her nursery yellow, neutral. Didn't know if we were having a boy or girl. When we found out, Robert wanted to repaint it pink. I said yellow was fine. She wouldn't remember. But we took thousands of pictures. Sarah in her crib, Sarah learning to walk in the hallway, Sarah's first birthday party in the backyard. We built a swing set when she was 4. Robert and I, following instructions from a manual. Took us 2 days. He kept swearing at the bolts. I kept laughing. We got it done. Sarah played on that swing for years. I'd push her. Higher, Mama, higher. Her high school graduation. We took the picture on the front porch. Sarah in her cap and gown, Robert and I on either side. We were so proud. Our daughter, going to college. We done good. That was 26 years ago, and now she was waiting for me to die so she could have this house. I stood in the hallway, between the past and present, between who I'd been and who I needed to become. That couch, that thin blanket, Jessica's laughter, Sarah's voice through the wall. How much longer can it be? I wasn't leaving my house. They were. I pulled out my phone, found the number I'd looked up last week. Real estate agent Janet Morrison, top seller in the area. I'd seen her signs all over the neighborhood. I called before I could change my mind. Morrison Realty, this is Janet. Hi, my name is Dorothy Henderson. I'd like to get a market evaluation on my home. Of course. When would you like me to come by? As soon as possible. We set an appointment. Monday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Sarah would be at work. I hung up, stood there in my kitchen. My kitchen, I'd made a decision. Real, concrete. I was selling the house. That evening before they came home, I made another decision. Smaller, but it mattered. I went to the dining room, looked at that table, the head chair where Sarah always sat. My chair pushed to the side. I moved my place setting from the side to the head, where I used to sit when Robert was alive, where I should have been sitting all along. I set the table for dinner, my plate at the head, Sarah's on the side, Miguel's across from her, the kids at the ends. I put fresh roses from my garden in a vase in the center, white roses, my favorite. The bushes Robert and I planted 30 years ago. Then I waited. They came home around 6. Sarah went straight to the kitchen, started reheating leftovers. Dinner in 20 minutes, she called. I sat at the table, at the head, waited. When Sarah brought the food out, she stopped, looked at the table, at me, sitting in her seat. Mom, I usually sit there. I looked at her, really looked at her, my daughter, who I'd given everything to, who was waiting for me to die. I know, I said. Not anymore. She stood there, holding a casserole dish, staring at me. I stared back, didn't look away, didn't apologize, didn't explain. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't break eye contact first. She put the casserole down, took the side seat, said nothing. Miguel and the kids came in, noticed the change. Nobody said anything. We ate in silence, uncomfortable silence. But I didn't care. I was done making them comfortable in my house. After dinner, after dishes, I went to my room, sat on my bed, let it all sink in. I'd called a real estate agent. I'd reclaimed my seat at my table. Small things, but they felt enormous. I sat at the kitchen table that night after everyone went to bed. My kitchen table. The house was quiet. I realized something important. I didn't owe them this house. I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not after 7 years of being invisible. Not after that couch. Not after Jessica's laughter. Not after Sarah's voice through the wall, counting the days until I died. I owed myself peace. I owed myself dignity. I owed myself a home where I was respected, even if I had to buy a new one to get it. The real estate agent came Monday. Janet Morrison. Professional. Kind. She walked through the house, took measurements, made notes. Beautiful home, she said. Well maintained. Great location. How much? I asked. In this market, I'd listed at $485,000. You'll probably get offers quickly. Properties in this neighborhood move fast. $485,000. After paying off the mortgage, this was pure equity, mine. How long to sell? 30 to 60 days typically, depends on the market, but I'm confident we'd have a contract within a month. A month. I could be free in a month. If I listed, when would you want to start showings? We could list by the end of the week, start showings next week. I thought about Sarah, the kids. They had no idea this was coming. They were about to find out. Let's do it, I said. Janet smiled. I'll draw up the paperwork. We can sign Friday. After she left, I sat in the living room, looked around. This house held 40 years of memories, good ones. Robert and I building our life, raising Sarah, growing old together. But it also held 7 years of being treated like I didn't matter, 7 years of being invisible, 7 years of sleeping on couches and sitting at the side of my own table. The good memories didn't erase the bad. The past didn't justify the present. This was my house, and I was taking it back, even if that meant letting it go. Friday afternoon, I signed the listing papers. Janet promised to have the sign up by Monday morning. Your family knows you're selling, she asked. They're about to, I said. That night at dinner, I sat at the head of the table. Sarah was getting used to it. Still didn't like it, but she didn't argue anymore. I looked at them. Sarah, Miguel, Jessica, Ryan. They had no idea. None of them. But Monday morning, there'd be a for sale sign in the front yard, and everything would change. The for sale sign went up Monday morning, 8:30. Janet Morrison and a crew. Professional, efficient, red and white sign, big letters. I watched from the kitchen window, my coffee getting cold. Sarah's car pulled into the driveway at 9. She'd forgotten her phone. Came back for it. She saw the sign, stopped, stared. Then she burst through the front door. Mom, what is that? I was still standing by the window. A for sale sign. I can see that. Why is it on our lawn? Because I'm selling the house. Silence. She just stared at me, like I'd spoken a foreign language. You're what? Selling. The house. It's listed as of this morning. You can't do that. I can. It's my house. But we live here. I know, you'll need to find somewhere else. She stood there, mouth open, trying to process. Mom, are you serious right now? Very serious. The realtor expects showings to start this week. You can't just, we have nowhere to go. You've had 7 years to save, to plan. That's not my responsibility anymore. Her face changed, shock to anger. This is insane. You're being ridiculous. I'm being clear. The house is for sale. You need to make other arrangements. Does the lawyer know about this? Can you even legally do this? My lawyer helped me prepare the listing. Yes, I can legally do this. It's my property. She pulled out her phone, called Miguel. I could hear her voice rising, panicked. She's selling the house. No, I'm serious. There's a sign out front. I don't know. She just... Get over here. Miguel arrived 20 minutes later. They stood in the living room, both of them staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Dorothy, let's talk about this, Miguel started, trying to be calm, reasonable. This is a big decision. Maybe you should think about it more. I've thought about it plenty. What brought this on? I almost laughed. What brought this on? 7 years of being invisible. The couch, the laughter, counting the days until I died. I want my house back, I said simply. It is your house. We're not saying it isn't. Then you understand why I can sell it. Sarah's voice cracked. Mom, please, we made mistakes. We should have been more grateful. We're sorry. Sorry. There it was. The apology I'd been waiting 7 years to hear. Thank you for apologizing, I said, but it doesn't change my decision. We'll do better. We'll help more around the house, pay for groceries, whatever you want. Whatever I want. After 7 years. After the couch. After... How much longer can it be? What I want is to sell my house. Can we at least talk about this? We are talking, I'm telling you. The house is listed. It will sell. You need to find another place to live. Miguel tried again. How much time do we have? The realtor thinks we'll have a contract within a month. Closing is typically 30 to 45 days after that, so probably 2 months, maybe 3. 2 months. I watched their faces, the reality sinking in. We can't find a place in 2 months, Sarah said. You found this place in 1 day 7 years ago. That was cruel, I knew it, but I was done being nice. They left. Sarah to work, though I doubt she got much done. Miguel to wherever. I heard them arguing in the driveway before they pulled out. I called Margaret. The sign is up. How'd they take it? About as well as you'd expect. You okay? I'm fine. Scared, but fine. You're doing the right thing, Dot. I hoped she was right. The first showing was that Wednesday, 5 o'clock. A young couple, expecting their first baby. They loved the house, loved the neighborhood, good schools nearby. Sarah and the kids stayed upstairs during the showing. Sullen, silent, making their disapproval known. I showed the house myself, pointed out the features: hardwood floors, updated kitchen, finished basement, large backyard. Is your family staying in the area? The woman asked. No, I said. Just me, I'm downsizing. They made an offer the next day. $470,000, $10,000 over asking. Janet called, excited. It's a strong offer. You should take it. Give me a day to think about it. I needed to talk to Susan, my lawyer. That night, Sarah tried again. Different approach this time. Softer. Mom, I know we haven't been the best house guests. House guests, after 7 years. That's what we were. We took advantage. I see that now. We got comfortable, stopped appreciating what you were giving us. I listened, didn't interrupt. If you want us to pay rent going forward, we can do that. I'll get a better job. Miguel will contribute. We'll make it work. Rent. After 7 years of free housing, after $241,000. It's too late for that, Sarah. Why? Because I already accepted the offer. The house is under contract. Her face went white. You accepted? This morning. Closing is scheduled for 60 days from now. You didn't even tell us. I'm telling you now. She stood up, hands shaking. I can't believe you're doing this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for me. This is going to destroy our family. You destroyed it when you laughed at me on that couch, when you counted the days until I died so you could have my house. She froze. You heard that? Every word. Silence. Long. Heavy. Mom, I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? She had no answer. The next week was tense. Sarah barely spoke to me. Jessica gave me dirty looks. Ryan looked guilty but said nothing. Miguel called his lawyer, tried to claim tenant rights. My lawyer, Susan, shut it down immediately. They have no lease, they've paid no rent, they have minimal rights. With proper notice, eviction is straightforward. Susan prepared the formal eviction notice, just in case. 60 days to vacate. Legal, binding. I kept it in my purse. Didn't want to serve it unless I had to. Hoped they'd just leave when the closing happened, but I was prepared. 1. Afternoon, I came home from errands, found Sarah in my bedroom again. This time she wasn't even trying to hide it. What are you looking for? Your will. I want to know if you've changed it. Bold. Direct. No more pretending. That's none of your business. It is my business. This is my inheritance. No, it's my property. While I'm alive, it's mine to do with as I please. And after you die? That's not your concern right now. She found the folder in my car trunk eventually. The documentation, property records, tax receipts, evidence. You've been planning this, she said, accusatory. This isn't sudden. You've been gathering evidence against us. I've been documenting facts. Yes. For how long? Since Thanksgiving. So you've been lying to us, pretending everything was fine while you plotted behind our backs. I wasn't plotting. I was protecting myself. By betraying your family? By reclaiming what's mine. That night, Margaret came over, brought soup. We sat at my kitchen table, my table, at the head. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Some days are harder than others. You're almost through it. 53 more days until closing. Then what? Then I find a condo, somewhere smaller, quieter, mine." Margaret squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you. This took courage." Or stubbornness. Same thing sometimes. We laughed. First time I'd laughed in weeks. The house showings continued. Weekends, evenings. Sarah made them as difficult as possible. Refused to clean, left dishes out, made the house look lived in and messy. Janet, my realtor, noticed. "Is your family being cooperative?" "Not really." Unfortunately, that's common in situations like this. Situations like this. Family, property disputes, evictions. I'd become a situation. I started packing my bedroom. Small things first. Photo albums, jewelry, my grandmother's china. Things that were mine, not theirs. Sarah watched from the doorway one afternoon. "You're really doing this?" It wasn't a question. "I really am." "Where will you go?" "I'm looking at condos near the community center. 2 bedrooms, garden view." "Will it have room for us to visit?" I looked at her. Really looked. Did she honestly think I'd want them to visit? After this? "We'll see," I said. Non-committal. She walked away. I kept packing. 47 days until closing. Then I'd be free. The night before our scheduled family meeting with the lawyers, I couldn't sleep. Susan had suggested a formal mediation, all parties present, documentation on the table, clear expectations outlined. "It'll give them one last chance to understand this is happening," Susan said, "and it'll protect you legally if they try to fight it later." Tomorrow. My lawyer's office. Sarah, Miguel, Jessica, and Ryan if they wanted to come. Me. All the documents spread out. The proof, the numbers, the deed, everything. They thought I'd back down. Thought I was too soft. Too scared, too old to fight back. Tomorrow they'd learn how wrong they were. I lay in bed, stared at the ceiling, thought about everything that led to this moment. The couch, the laughter, the overheard conversation, Margaret's question, the lawyer, the evidence, the listing, the offer, the contract. 53 days until closing, 47 days until freedom, one more meeting, one more confrontation. Then it would be over. The night before the meeting, Sarah tried one more time. She knocked on my bedroom door, 10 o'clock. I was reading in bed. "Can we talk?" I put my book down. "Come in." She sat on the edge of my bed. She looked tired, defeated. 7 years of living rent-free had aged her less than 2 months of consequences. "Mom, please, don't do this." "Sarah, just listen, please." Her voice cracked. "I know we messed up. I know we took advantage. I was desperate when Miguel and I divorced. Desperate and scared, and I wasn't thinking clearly. I needed help. And you were there. Like you always are." I listened. Didn't interrupt. I let it go on too long. I should have moved out years ago. I should have been paying rent, contributing, treating this like your house, not mine. She wiped her eyes. "But Mom, we're family. Can't we fix this? Can't we start over?" "It's too late." "Why?" "The house hasn't closed yet. You could back out of the contract." "I could, but I won't." "Why not?" I looked at her, my daughter, the girl I'd raised in this house, taught to ride a bike, watched graduate, walked down the aisle, because you made me sleep on the couch, because Jessica laughed, because you said, "How much longer can it be?" when you thought I couldn't hear. My voice was quiet, steady, because for 7 years I disappeared in my own home, and I'm not doing that anymore. She started crying, real tears, not manipulation, grief. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know, but you did, and sorry doesn't fix it." "What can I do?" "Find a place to live, move on, build your own life, in your own home." "Will you ever forgive me?" "Maybe, someday, but not today." She left, closed the door quietly behind her. I sat there, felt the weight of it. I was choosing myself over my daughter, over my grandchildren, over family. It hurt, but I knew it was right. Susan's law office was downtown, Victorian building, restored brick, second floor, conference room overlooking Main Street. I arrived early, 9:30 for a 10 o'clock meeting. Susan was already there, documents organized in neat stacks on the mahogany table. "Ready?" she asked. "As I'll ever be." Remember, this is a fact-sharing meeting, not a negotiation. You're informing them of the situation, not asking permission. I nodded. Tom Bradford was there too, my financial advisor. Susan had asked him to present the numbers, make it official, undeniable. Sarah arrived at 9:55, Miguel with her, Jessica. Ryan trailing behind, looking uncomfortable. They took seats across from me, like opposing teams, which I supposed we were. Susan started, professional, calm. "Thank you all for coming. I'm Susan Chen, Mrs. Henderson's attorney. This meeting is to clarify the legal status of the property at 342 Oak Street and to outline the timeline going forward." She pulled out the first document, property deed, placed it in the center of the table where everyone could see. "This is the property deed. It shows that the house has been solely owned by Dorothy Henderson since 1985. There are no other names on this deed, no co-owners, no tenants with legal rights. Mrs. Henderson is the sole legal owner." Sarah stared at the deed, like seeing it made it real. Susan continued. "Mrs. Henderson has the absolute legal right to sell this property, which she has done. The house is under contract. Closing is scheduled for January 15th. That's 46 days from now." She pulled out the sale contract, placed it next to the deed. Purchase price, $470,000. Buyers are pre-approved. Financing is secure. The sale will proceed as planned. Miguel leaned forward. "Do we have any legal recourse? Any way to stop this?" "No. You have no lease. You've paid no rent. You have minimal tenant protections. With proper notice, which Mrs. Henderson is providing, you have no grounds to contest the sale." Tom, my financial advisor, spoke next. He opened his folder, pulled out a spreadsheet. "I want to present some numbers to clarify what Mrs. Henderson has contributed over the past 7 years. He slid the paper across the table. Property taxes, $8,000 per year, 7 years. That's $56,000, all paid by Mrs. Henderson from her personal accounts. He pointed to the next line. Fair market rent for a 3-bedroom home in this neighborhood, $2,200 per month. Over 7 years, that's $185,000 in housing value that Mrs. Henderson provided free of charge. Jessica shifted uncomfortably. Ryan stared at his hands. Home improvements, kitchen renovation, $45,000. New roof, $12,000. HVAC system, $8,000. Total, $65,000. Again, all paid by Mrs. Henderson. He looked up, made eye contact with each of them. Total financial contribution, $306,000. The number hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. Tom continued, Mrs. Henderson gave you more than $250,000 in housing, in improvements, in carrying costs, and in return, he paused. She got a couch to sleep on at Thanksgiving. Sarah's face crumpled. Miguel looked at the floor. Jessica's eyes were wide. Susan pulled out one more document, eviction notice, placed it on top of the others. If you're not out voluntarily by January 15th, Mrs. Henderson is prepared to file formal eviction. This notice gives you 60 days from today. That's 2 months to find alternative housing. It's more than generous given the circumstances. Silence. Long, heavy. Then Sarah spoke, voice shaking. Mom, you're really going to make us homeless? I met her eyes, steady, clear. You're not homeless. You have 2 months to find a place. I gave you 7 years of free housing. You can find something in 60 days. But where will we go? That's not my responsibility anymore. But Grandma, Jessica started, her voice small, uncertain. I looked at her. My granddaughter, who'd laughed at me on the couch. Jessica, you laughed when they put me on that couch. You thought it was funny, do you remember? She looked away. I didn't mean, you laughed, and nobody stopped you. Not your mother, not your father, nobody. Ryan spoke up, quiet, barely audible. I'm sorry, Grandma. I turned to him, 15 years old, the only one who'd looked uncomfortable that night, the only one showing remorse now. Thank you, Ryan, I appreciate that. Sarah tried again. Mom, we'll pay rent going forward, The house is sold, Sarah. Can't you back out of the contract? I could, but I won't. We're your family. And you treated me like a tenant in my own house. Miguel spoke up, trying to stay calm, reasonable. Dorothy, I understand you're upset, but this seems extreme. Selling the house, making your daughter and grandchildren move out over a misunderstanding? It wasn't a misunderstanding. You stood by while Sarah made decisions about my house without consulting me. You called it our house when it was never yours. You made plans for when I'd be dead so you could inherit. I never said that. Sarah did. I heard her. Sarah's face went pale. I didn't know you were listening. You shouldn't have been saying it at all. She broke down, full tears, shoulders shaking. I didn't mean it. We were frustrated. We didn't have anywhere else to go, and I thought eventually it would work out. It did work out. For you. You lived rent-free for 7 years. But we needed this. Do you know how hard it's been? Yes. I know desperation. I know struggle. I've been there. That's why I said yes when you asked to stay, but needing help doesn't give you the right to disrespect me. Miguel put his hand on Sarah's shoulder. She was crying too hard to speak now. Jessica looked at her mother, then at me. Grandma, I'm sorry. About the couch. About everything. We didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't think about it. None of you did. Ryan spoke again. Can I still visit you? After you move? I looked at him. The only one asking. The only one who seemed to understand this wasn't about punishment. It was about boundaries. Yes, you can visit. What about me? Jessica asked, smaller now, less certain. We'll see. Susan cleared her throat. The timeline is firm, closing on January 15th. You need to be out by then. I recommend you start looking for housing immediately. The market is tight this time of year. Sarah looked at me. One last plea. Mom, please don't do this. I thought about the couch, the laughter, the overheard conversation, 7 years of being invisible, 7 years of my own daughter, counting the days until I died. I thought about sitting at the side of my own table, watching them make plans for my house, being told I was confused when I tried to set boundaries. I thought about Margaret asking, "Are they taking care of you?" And realizing the answer was no. I looked at Sarah, my daughter, who I'd given everything to. The house is sold. You have 46 days. Susan slid the eviction notice across the table. Official, legal, final. If you're not out by January 15th, we'll proceed with formal eviction through the courts. It won't be pleasant. I recommend you avoid that. Miguel stood up. This is ridiculous. Come on, Sarah. But Sarah didn't move. She just sat there, staring at the documents, the deed, the contract, the eviction notice, her inheritance, her future, disappearing right in front of her. I can't believe you're doing this to us, she whispered. I'm not doing this to you, I said. I'm doing this for me. They left, Jessica crying, Sarah silent, Miguel angry, Ryan looking back at me one more time before the door closed. When they were gone, I sat there, stared at the documents on the table, the property deed with my name, the sale contract, the eviction notice I just served my own daughter. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired and free. Susan sat down next to me. You did the right thing. Did I? Yes, you protected yourself. Set boundaries. That's not cruel. That's survival. Tom packed up his papers. If you need anything, call me. We'll get that money invested properly. You'll be set for life." They left me alone in the conference room. I looked out the window, downtown, the street below, people going about their lives, normal, easy. My life hadn't been easy, not for a long time, but in 46 days it would be mine again. All mine. They moved out 12 days before closing, January 3rd. Quietly. No goodbye. Sarah rented a 2-bedroom apartment across town. I heard from a neighbor, $800 a month. She'd have to budget, get used to paying rent, figure it out like everyone else. The house closed on schedule. January 15th, 10 o'clock appointment at the title company. I signed the papers. Final documents, transfer of ownership, keys to the new owners. The young couple who'd made the offer. Baby due in March. They were excited, grateful. "We'll take good care of it," the husband said. "I know you will," I told them. I netted $460,000 after closing costs. 40 years of equity. Mine. Margaret helped me move. She'd already packed most of my things while I was at the closing. Boxes labeled, organized, ready. "I'm proud of you, Dot," she said, loading boxes into my car. "This took real courage. Or stubbornness." "Same thing." She hugged me. "Come over for coffee this weekend. I want to hear about the new place." Susan, my lawyer, called that afternoon. "Congratulations, you did it." "Thank you for everything." "You protected yourself. That's what matters." She paused. "Have you thought about updating your will?" "Yes, I'd like to schedule an appointment." We met the following week. I changed everything. The house proceeds. My retirement accounts, my personal belongings. Ryan got a trust fund, $25,000 for college, for his future. He'd been the only one to apologize, the only one who understood. If he maintains a relationship with me, visits regularly, treats me with respect, he'll get access at 18, I told Susan. And the others? Nothing. Sarah, Miguel, Jessica, they get nothing. Susan made notes. No judgment, just facts. I also set aside money for the local senior center and the library, places that had given me community when my family had given me a couch. "Your estate is now airtight," Susan said. "If anyone contests, they won't win." The consequences were clear. Sarah didn't speak to me, blocked my number. Jessica followed her mother's lead. Miguel sent one angry email. I deleted it, but Ryan called. 2 weeks after they moved. "Grandma, can I come visit?" "Of course." He came that Saturday, saw my new condo, 2 bedrooms, garden view near the community center. I'd already planted rose cuttings from my old garden in pots on the balcony. "It's nice," he said quietly, looking around. "It's mine," I said, "all mine." We had lunch, sandwiches, talked about school, his plans for summer, normal grandfather-grandson things. Before he left, he hugged me. "I really am sorry, Grandma, for everything." "I know, thank you for saying that." "Can I come back?" "Anytime." Financial security. That's what the sale gave me. $460,000. I put $200,000 into the condo, owned it outright. No mortgage. The remaining $260,000 went into investments. Conservative. Safe. My financial advisor, Tom, set it up. "You're set for life," he said. "Monthly income from investments, Social Security, teacher's pension. You won't have to worry about money again." I didn't feel rich. I felt free. Emotional relief came slower. Some days I missed the house. Not the family that had lived there, just the house. The memories Robert and I built there. But then I'd remember the couch, the laughter, the conversation through the wall, and I'd remember why I left. I'd wake up in my new condo, my own bed, no one asking me to cook breakfast, no one making decisions about my space without asking, no one treating me like I was invisible, just peace. Quiet. Mine. Margaret came over every Sunday, brought casserole. We'd have coffee, talk about book club, compare notes on our gardens. She never asked if I regretted it. She knew I didn't. "The book club ladies call you the legend now," she told me one afternoon, laughing. Why? The woman who sold her house right out from under her family. Linda said she's taking notes in case her son-in-law gets any ideas. We laughed. Real laughter. Not the cruel kind Jessica had given me. The kind that comes from friendship, respect, understanding. I was rebuilding my life, on my terms, with people who valued me. Some days were hard. I'd see a young mother with her daughter at the grocery store. Wonder if Sarah and I would ever speak again. Wonder if I'd been too harsh. But then I'd come home to my condo, sit at my own table, make decisions about my own space, live without walking on eggshells, and I'd know. I'd made the right choice. Not the easy choice, the right one. 3 months after the closing, I'm sitting in my condo watching the sunrise. Coffee in hand, just me and the morning quiet. My place is smaller than the house. 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for guests, though so far only Ryan has visited. The living room overlooks a community garden. I can see my rose cuttings on the balcony. They're thriving. I paid $200,000 for this condo, owned it outright, no mortgage, no landlord, just mine. The rest of the money is invested, generating monthly income. My financial advisor says I'm set for life. I don't need much. Coffee, books, my garden, peace. Every morning I wake up in my own bed, make my own coffee, sit at my own table. No one tells me what to do with my space. No one makes decisions without asking. No one treats me like I'm invisible. I'm 73 years old. For the first time in 7 years, I feel like I exist. Margaret comes over every Sunday, brings casserole. We drink coffee, talk about book club, swap gardening tips. She's never asked if I regret selling the house. She knows better. "How's Ryan?" she asked last week. "Good. He calls every few days, visited twice this month." "And Sarah?" "No contact." Margaret squeezed my hand, said nothing. Sometimes that's all you need, someone who understands. Book club meets Wednesday nights at the library. 7 women, ages 65 to 78. We're reading mysteries, talking about our lives. Last week, Linda brought up her son-in-law, how he's been making comments about their house. "When you're gone," he says, like she's not standing right there. "What did you do?" Barbara asked. Linda grinned. "Called my lawyer, updated my will. The house goes to charity now. He can figure out his own housing." Everyone laughed. Someone said my name. The legend. I smiled, sipped my coffee. 2 weeks ago, I went back to the house. Drove by, didn't stop, just wanted to see it. The young couple had planted flowers in the front yard, pansies, yellow and purple. There was a tricycle on the porch. The baby must have arrived. I felt nothing. Not sad, not nostalgic, just neutral. That house held 40 years of memories. Good ones. Robert and I building our life, raising Sarah, growing old together. But it also held 7 years of being invisible. 7 years of couch sleeping and side chair sitting and being told I was confused when I tried to set boundaries. The good memories don't erase the bad. I kept driving. Some days I missed the house. Not the family that lived there. Just the house itself. The space. The garden. The rooms where my life happened. But then I remember why I left. And I know I made the right choice. I didn't lose my home. I chose freedom. My will is updated. Everything's in order. Ryan gets his trust fund. The senior center gets $20,000. The library gets $15,000. My church gets $10,000. Sarah gets nothing. Jessica gets nothing. Miguel was never in it to begin with. If they contest, Susan says they won't win. The will is airtight. My choice, my money, my right. I hope someday Sarah and I can talk again. Maybe. But I'm not holding my breath. And I'm okay with that. Some relationships don't survive honesty. Some families can't handle boundaries. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. I gave them 7 years, $241,000, my dignity on that couch. And they laughed. Selling the house wasn't revenge. It was self-preservation. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to disrespect you. Not your children, not your grandchildren, not anyone. If you're in your own home and family treats you like a guest, remember, It's your home. You earned it. You paid for it. You don't owe it to anyone who doesn't respect you. I'm 73 years old. I spent 40 years building that house into a home, 7 years being disrespected in it. Now I'm in a smaller place, quieter, simpler. But it's mine, all mine, and nobody laughs at me here. Some days are hard. I won't pretend they're not. I wonder if I was too harsh, too unforgiving, if I should have tried harder to make it work. But then I wake up, make my coffee, sit at my table, look out at my garden, and I remember I'm not a guest anymore. I'm not invisible. I'm home.